You're listening to Coach Rita on the LOA Radio Network. Many say that the law of attraction doesn't always work, and Coach Rita would like to show you why it's not working. During this hour, you will gain great insight that will help you to make easy changes to become the great co-creator that you came here to be. Tune in and discover your missing link to the law of attraction with Coach Rita Hurry.
Hello everyone, and welcome to your missing link to the law of attraction show. I'm your host from the UK, Coach Rita Hurry, and I have a great show lined up for you today. But first, I need to say a special thank you to Bola Oshin from the UK, who was the engineer sent from the universe, I believe, to cure our laptop from a virus within 24 hours. A great service. So if anyone needs a top engineer, let me know. Okay, I'd also like to say a heartfelt thank you to all those who have been listening to the shows and showing your support. I have had some great feedback, and it's nice to know that sitting here in the cold UK, I am able to inspire people across the globe. My intention for doing this show is purely to give people hope and clarity, to reach out and live your dreams, your purpose. With the right focus and determination, we can all fulfill whatever we want from life. This is my intention, to share stories of inspiration as well as offer guidance so you know everything is possible. I believe that this is my purpose. As a coach, yes, I work one-to-one with people as well as in workshops, and seeing people light up, seeing that spark, seeing them get it and understand, yeah, I know that I am important, and I know that life is possible and everything I want is possible, is amazing to me. It's why every time I connect with any of my clients, and even with new clients and new people, I always walk away from a session or a workshop feeling fulfilled, feeling even more grateful for what I'm able to do for people. So to be able to reach out globally to you all, to be able to sit here and speak to you, knowing that my voice is actually heard in so many different countries for as far as Australia, is great for me. But what's even more great for me is getting the feedback and knowing that I am inspiring you in some way and giving you that get up and go to get out there and live your purpose. And again, if there's questions or anything, that I am here, that you can email me and just listen and have the answers and have something to go on and move forward in life. So I'm fulfilling my purpose, and I want to say thank you not only for taking the time out to listen to me and to listen to my special guests who are sharing their inspiring journeys with you all. One of the great things about this show, apart from the plus side of being able to connect with you all, is to be able to connect with my special guests, be able to meet these people, chat to them and get to hear their inspirational stories. Because like yourself, the reason why I select these guests is because I feel they have something that will inspire you, that will give you that get up and go, that it's not just me that's here for you, but that it's them, and they are examples of, if you believe in yourself and if you want to do it, you can go for it. And this is the reason why I choose the people, because they've done it, they've taken that step, they've taken that leap of faith, and they're here sharing their stories with you. So it makes me feel happy to know that people out there are listening and are feeling inspired by what I've shared so far. So I'm not going away. I plan to be here for a very, very long time. Even though the show is an hour, I don't plan to go anywhere. So you'll constantly be hearing my voice. So give me your feedback. Maybe give me a few suggestions. Is there any special guests that you know in your country that you'd like me to interview that has an inspiring story? Get in touch with me, because as I said in my first show, we are a team and you make up this show as well. So I want to keep hearing from you. And if you have been listening to the show, email me, say hi, visit my show page on the Law of Attraction Radio Network website, www.loaradionetwork.com. I hope I've got that right. And fill in the form to let me know you are a fan of the show. I always acknowledge all of my emails. And remember, if you have an inspirational story to share or have a question regarding Law of Attraction, email me on info@coachrita.co.uk. I'll say that again, info@coachrita.co.uk. And over the last week, I've started on Twitter. Now, I'm on social media, but I must admit, keeping up with it is sometimes a little bit tricky, but I've made this promise to myself that no, on a daily basis, on a regular basis throughout the day, I'm gonna make sure I update my social media. So I was egged on, come on now, you need to get on Twitter. So I did it, I'm on Twitter. It's still early days, but I'm making sure I'm regularly updating my status. So feel free to follow me on Twitter. It's at Coach Rita Hurry. So my Twitter name is at Coach Rita Hurry. Or like my Facebook page, which is Rita the Coach, all one word. So I hope to be either hearing from you through emails or on social media. Anyway, back to the show. I'm excited about the show today. Well, I pretty much get excited about all my shows. But today I have a great inspiring interview with Leon Logothetis, I hope I pronounced that right, who has a great outlook on life and is leading a life of adventure. And I feel he's given hope to many people across the globe. So please stay tuned for his interview. You are not going to want to miss it, I promise you. Okay, well, if you have been following my shows, then you know what time it is. Yep, it's Coach Rita Hurry's Corner. Da, da, da. Sorry, maybe I should have a little intro for it all the time. Apologies. Anyway, firstly, I have a good news story to share. Yep, exciting, another good news story. This email comes from Seema Hirani in London, UK, so right here in the UK. Now, I'm going to read. Now, Seema was on a retreat in Kerala, and I hope I pronounced that right, so apologies if I haven't. And she had bought a box of chocolates with an intention to give it to orphans. Throughout her time there, she kept looking for this orphanage and had heard children laughing and playing close by, but could not see them. Now, her intention to do this grew stronger and stronger, so she never gave up on this intention. It came to the day before her last day, and she did start to give up and thought she would give the chocolates to the staff to say thank you instead. And later that day, she went for a walk with a spiritualist and saw a boy on a bike who looked at her, and she waved at him. He went up to them and asked them to attend the ashram the following morning for a prayer. and told them he was an orphan from the local orphanage close by. She realised that if she was not able to give the chocolates to an orphanage, she would at least give it to him. When she arrived at the ashram on the following day, her last day, she saw 34 children that came from an orphanage. So she managed to fulfill her intention of giving 2 boxes of chocolates to the orphanage. Now Seema ends her email by saying, "I see this as a blessing and so coincidental that I came to know of the ashram a day before I leave. I believe asking the universe for something really does come true." Now Seema, thank you so much for your beautiful story. This story reminds me of a quote: "God's delays are not God's denials." And as humans, we often forget that there is a higher power who has everything ready for you. You only have to walk in faith. But as I mentioned in my first show, sometimes faith can be so difficult, but what helps us get through is reminding ourselves daily that we only have to ask and it is done. As in the example of this story, right up until the last few days, the answer to what she wanted was revealed. And sometimes, like I said, God's delays are not God's denials. You cannot give a specific, exact time for when things will happen. The universe, God, the higher being, knows the perfect timing for you, knows the perfect opening for you. And this was the perfect timing and the perfect opening for Seema. Now, as with all good stories, I like to kind of break them down as well and look at pulling the benefits from it. So if you look at this story closer, you will see that the moment she let go of the situation, the answer she was seeking came to her. Like in the story I shared in my last show from Graham, the minute you take your focus away from the absence of it, it gets resolved. Now hear what I just said there. I didn't say take your focus away from what you want. I said take your focus away from the absence of it. Now that's a huge difference. When you focus on the absence of something, you are looking at what is and not to what is coming and will come. That's when resistance seeps in, impatience, the feeling of being let down, anger at yourself or at others, feelings of failure, all huge resistances which blocks everything you want from coming to you. Now, in this story, Seema was ready to give up. But there was still hope as her intention was so strong. Why do I know this? As she still held onto the box of chocolates just in case, and it paid off. Another beautiful thing about this story was the desire to give, to help others and give them something exciting like a box of chocolates. She gave from a loving heart, and also, even if she couldn't find an orphanage, excuse me, at the end of her trip, she would have still given the chocolate away as a gift. I believe that the desire to give a gift to someone was the strongest element of this story that resulted in success. To do anything from a pure, loving heart releases any resistance. So Seema, thank you for your email, and please send in those emails. I want to hear and share your stories with the world, just like I did with Seema's today and Graham's last week. So please send them in, no matter how small the story is. I mean, again, this one was another short and sweet story. It actually meant something to Seema, and no matter how small it is, and I know I've said this before, it means something. It's still a manifestation. It's still the universe saying yes to you. So please do share, because I'm sure it's inspiring someone over the globe, because I know it's inspiring me. So thank you, Seema. Okay, well, today in Coach Rita Hurry's Corner, I want to talk about limits and the limits we place on ourselves, and as a result, not living to our true self. Now, one of the missing links that often gets in the way of us leading the life we want is holding on to the limits we place on ourselves. Sometimes since childhood, we often took what was told as final and nothing could be changed. Now, this could be from parents, it could be from teachers, it could be from friends, family, anyone. But we've taken these words and these beliefs and these limits, and we've held on to them for so long that they've become a part of us. Now, as an energy healer, when I'm doing energy healing work, I work with clients on childhood issues and birth stories, and look at clearing all these negative stories that surround these periods in our life. And you'll find that the negative things that have been said, or the negative limits that we have placed on ourselves during these periods, are often what we hold subconsciously, because we keep on telling ourselves this. We may not tell ourselves this verbally and consciously knowing it, but subconsciously it's still there, and it's still being repeated over and over again. And when I work with clients on this, we look at clearing this. And once it's cleared, it's almost like you see a new life being born in front of your eyes. Why? Because the individual is born into their true nature now. No more I should be this, but more so this is me. And that's what happens when we let go of the negative subconscious blockages that hold us down for so long, the limits, negative limits that we call them. It's almost like you're reborn, not reborn into a religion, but into you, into yourself. And it's beautiful to see, it's beautiful to watch and see and to experience. Letting the true, authentic self out is fun, exciting, and opens lots of manifestations your way. Why? Because you get to be in control. It's not what others are telling you to be. You are being you. When you are being truly you, you know what you want. Clarity begins to form. Fear loses its grip on you. And finally, you realize that you deserve happiness, just like everyone else. You become your own master. And as a co-creator in your life, this is exactly what is going to get you living the life you want. So how do you get to this point? Well, yes, there is energy healing with me, but also you have to be able to look at yourself honestly and notice if you are staying in a comfort zone, because it's what you know, it's what you're used to. Do you get restless? Do you find you're actually getting restless often, be it in a work situation or in a family situation? Do you just find that everyone around you is okay and is calm and relaxed and is happy where they are, but you cannot settle, that there's just something that, no, it's, you do it because almost you become like a machine, you know, you just automatically do it because it's just become a part of you. But do you realize that there's an inner restlessness that's going on, and you find yourself almost pushing it to the back burner, saying, oh, it's just me, maybe I'm nervous about this, maybe I just don't feel comfortable, but don't, you know, it's nothing serious. Are you saying something because you should say it, but really you want to say something else? You know, like, oh, you shouldn't said that, or why did you say that? You know, if you've had that often in your life, sometimes you'll stop yourself and just not say anything, just to not rock the boat. And, you know, do you find you won't say anything for fear of rocking the boat, so you prefer to keep your opinions to yourself? I personally, when I went through this transition myself, did go through that, where I didn't actually say what I wanted to say in case anyone took offence. But what actually happened was I was actually blocking myself, because maybe what I had to say could have helped someone. And I was always known for being diplomatic, but because, you know, you'd been told that for so long, it's better to stay quiet, you automatically become that way. Or maybe you just say too much and do things to be heard, as you don't feel you are being acknowledged, you don't feel that you're being taken seriously, so you rather be loud and do things that make you get attention, just to get attention, because you don't feel that you're being heard and you don't feel that you're being taken seriously. All these are signs of you not living your authentic self. What this is creating, though, is resistance. Your vibrations are limited and mixed with ups and downs. So much of what you're doing there is actually creating mixed signals to the universe, and it's not clear. So hence, what you truly want may never run smoothly. So to start the work on removing these mixed signals is really to get to know you. Do those things you truly, truly love. Make your intention every morning to please you, to enjoy you, to share you with those you love. Start to really get to know your likes and dislikes again. I often found through my own personal journey and from clients I have worked with that many of us can always go back to a point when we were younger and pull out what we loved doing then, and find that it's the key to what we need to bring back into our lives again. For example, going back to myself, when I was younger, I used to love being outdoors. Like, I'd come home from school, have my tea, and I'll be out. You know, come in, have my dinner, and be out. It was like, to come in and have to do the routine of doing stuff was like, no, I want to get out. I was a bit of a tomboy, so I used to kick around the football, you know, used to get groups of people together, kick around the football. I used to climb over fences, climb on trees, and even, you know, sort of just go on adventures, you know, walk around. It was a lot more sort of, the neighbourhood that we were living in was a lot more safer then. But I used to be out, you know, just like not far from where I lived. You know, my parents could see that I was safe, but I couldn't be in. And if I wasn't allowed to be out on, you know, out in front of the gate, if, say for example, I'd been a little bit naughty, I was told to stay in the gateway. That was outside for me, so I made the most of that, even though I was eager to get out of the gateway. And sometimes, I must admit, I did sort of sneak out, but I always got caught. But I had to be out. And then I went through a period where I didn't go out and I started to stay at home more. And when I did this transition work, I found actually maybe I'm a more outdoorsy person than I am an indoorsy person. And even though a lot of my work that I do is indoors, when I'm out doing things that I enjoy, it's great. I feel myself in a flow, and I feel open and happy and being true to myself. So that's an example of actually finding yourself and almost going back to what you used to enjoy, and to find that again and to bring that back out. So my advice to you is really put the should down and pick yourself up again. Life might show you that you may need to make a big change, but when you come from an authentic place, it helps to deal with the fear of change. And remember, you're never alone. The universe, God, higher being, whatever you believe in has always got your back. I always say to people, and I always remind myself, when anything seems a little bit difficult, it's a little trial, I'll say, I always remind myself the universe has my back. Always has done before. So why should I think that the universe wouldn't? For example, this situation with the laptop. I thought the universe has my back, and it is true. So you are not alone. So I want you to relax the limits. These limits have been there because you forgot to let them go. That's it. You held on to them for so long. I can't do that, can I? Should I do that? What will other people think? And you're not alone. Many of us do that. We hold on to limits because it's almost like a comfort blanket. Like a baby, they have their comfort blanket. It's almost like that. Maybe I shouldn't. And it's the shoulds and the people pleasing that are the limits that we've ingrained it into our beings, and we need to let go of them. So put the shoulds down, let go of the limits, move them away, and go be you. And watch how much life becomes so much more fulfilling and fun. It really does become fun. You start to enjoy being you. You start to see life differently. Why? Because your eyes are open, because you've gained clarity, because you almost kind of go back to childhood, but in the sense of where it was good, where it was before the limits, before the blockages started to happen. You kind of go back to that. And trust me, I'm speaking from personal experience here. It's fun. You discover you. You start, if you find that you've got a quirky dress sense, doesn't matter. Wear what you want. Go and be you. Go and maybe find something new. But that is one of the messages that I really wanted to get across to you today, and I felt this was the right show to do it in. I just feel that we need to be our authentic selves. We need to be us. We need to be true to ourselves, because when we hide it, when we keep it blocked, we are responsible for it. You are a co-creator in your life. You are a co-creator in your life. So stop letting other people's opinions create the life that you want, because you've allowed it. You've co-created it, but you've allowed them to co-create it. So by keeping those limits, by keeping yourself not living true to yourself, what you're doing is you're letting others control you, and you're not a co-creator. No matter how much you believe in it, you really are not co-creating. Or you're co-creating because you're focusing on your limits, because that's all you see. And remember, those limits are other people's outside influences. So live true to who you are. Be authentic. Go and have fun. Just go and have fun and be you. It's all good. So if you are interested in my energy healing program, please visit my website. It's www.coachrita.co.uk/intensive energy healing. So I'll say that one more time. It's www.coachrita.co.uk/intensive energy healing. Okay, well that's it for the first half. So I'm going to break for a station ID, and after I will welcome Leon Logothetis to the show. Thank you, and we'll be right back after this station ID.
You're listening to Law of Attraction Radio Network, enhancing the well-being of millions of listeners worldwide. LOARadionetwork.com is heard through 25 different internet radio stations, as well as iTunes Radio, Stitcher.com, and our mobile apps. The Law of Attraction Radio Network, your trusted source of daily inspiration, at LOARadionetwork.com.
Welcome back, everyone, to the second half of my show. I'm very pleased to welcome Leon Logothetis, who is a global adventurer, motivational speaker and philanthropist. Leon's journey from being a broker in the City of London to life on the road is sure to be an inspiration. So let's not waste any time with all the intros. Let's just get talking to Leon. Welcome, Leon, to the show.
Hi, thanks very much for having me.
You're welcome. So your journey and view on life is one that inspired me even more so, and that was just from reading your website. So I'd like to share with the listeners and maybe go back to the beginning of your journey, back to those days when you were a city broker in London. What was life like for you?
You know, I felt extremely disconnected. I would spend many, many hours sitting behind what I used to call my slab of wood, crunching numbers, and I felt no sense of purpose, no real sense of direction, and ultimately I felt like I was living someone else's life. And that all changed after I watched the movie The Motorcycle Diaries, which was about Che Guevara traveling across South America, relying on the kindness of strangers. And in that movie, I realized that the way I was living my life was not the way I wanted to live my life, and that there was so much more out there, and that the power, or the healing power of human connection, was something that I was really missing.
Was that for a while before you started watching the movie? Did you feel like that? I mean, how long were you in this job for?
Yeah, the movie really was the final nail in the coffin of my broker days. It was certainly bubbling up before that, and I'd been in the job a couple of years. I'd been studying as well, business and stuff like that. So I'd been in that kind of world for, 7-8 years.
Okay.
And it wasn't for me. Not that it's not for everyone, because there are some very happy, successful people who do sit behind desks, and they change lives and they inspire people, but it just wasn't for me.
Okay, so obviously, I mean, one of the things when I was looking at your website, I loved your quote where you were saying, finding ways for your inner rebel, which is the voice that tells you you are worth so much more than you think, to come out and play. The inner rebel tells you that your life is yours and anything you dream of is possible, anything. Now, share with the listeners, what was it like finally making way for your inner rebel to come out and play and live life? What kind of feelings and emotions were you experiencing at the time?
Fear. Fear, because we get stuck in a comfort zone, we get stuck in a routine, and we have a preconceived idea of what our life should be. Other people have preconceived ideas of what our life should be, and to find your way out of that isn't easy. It's really not, and it's even more difficult for people who, who have kids and who are married and who have to pay mortgages and live paycheck by paycheck. It's much harder. I mean, for me, I was fortunate because I was a broker. I didn't have a wife. I didn't have any kids. I didn't even have a dog. So I didn't really have the kind of responsibilities that many people do have. And even that situation, it was still very difficult to jump out of my comfort zone. So it's not an easy thing. It really isn't. And it's taken me a long time to really be living in my authenticity and in my truth. To be honest with you, it's not just like I watched that movie and then everything worked out. I had a commitment to live a different life, and it took a long time to get to that place.
So how did you deal with the fears? What kind of, I mean, obviously I myself know that from making a break from a day job, an office job, to actually move into doing what you want is very fearful. How did you deal with it?
I think that one of the biggest motivators is pain. And I was in a lot of pain. So I had reached a wall, let's say, and I felt like I didn't really have much of a choice. Was I going to continue living this unhappy life, continue drowning in my pain, or was I going to do something about it? So sometimes I say to people that if I wasn't in so much pain, I don't know if I would have been able to do this. So the biggest motivator for me was pain.
So when you're saying pain, do you find that you were actually focused on the pain to the point that it did actually get you to get up and do something? Because I know many of us can actually push the pain behind and say, yeah, I want to, but the fear's too much, so I'll stay in where I am for comfort's sake.
I would say yes, and I would say that there's a very famous quote by Winston Churchill, who has many quotes, but one of his quotes is, when you find yourself walking through hell, keep going. And many people, when they walk through hell, turn around. But if you keep going, you get to the other side, and then I find that one becomes wiser, one becomes more intuitive, one becomes more prone to living authentically. So it's really about, as you mentioned, focusing on it. If you can focus on it and stay in it and sit in it, you ultimately can find your way out of it.
Yeah. So what was the transition point? How did you make that transition? What was the first step you took?
Well, the first step that I took was I resigned. And I actually did my first little jaunt travel, let's say, was I traveled across America on $5 a day, relying entirely on the kindness of strangers. Because as I'd mentioned, I was very disconnected. So my theory was that if I took away all my money, I would be forced to connect with people, because there was no way that I was going to manage to get from Times Square to the Hollywood sign if I didn't connect with people, if I didn't have any money. Yeah. So sometimes I put myself in very strange situations, but I do that in order to force myself to come out of my shell. And I think that's something that I learned from that movie, and I learned from the books that I've read, and I learned from the people who inspired me to go out and live as fully as I possibly can. So
you almost kind of face your fears and say, okay, I have to do this because I know it's going to move me forward to where I need to go for yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And I sometimes, like I've mentioned about being inspired by people, I was very inspired by Winston Churchill's life and some of the things that he did. For example, after the Gallipoli campaign in 1916, he went and fought in the trenches. He actually went and fought in the trenches. Wow. And that's facing your fears. That's being courageous. And I take inspiration from others who've followed a similar path.
Right, brilliant. So you mentioned obviously traveling across America, and I believe you traveled across Europe and the UK on £5 or €5. And it was actually a TV series, wasn't it? Amazing Adventures of a Nobody. Is that correct?
It was. I had a friend who just happened to be in the TV world, and I said to him, "Look, let's do this." And he's like, "What are you talking about? Let's do this." And I'm like, "Let's just do it. Let's just go out and do it." And I got very, very lucky, and we sold it. We sold it all around the world, and that was I felt very fortunate, because normally, if you don't have any history in TV and you go and do something like that, it doesn't work out.
Yeah. So can you share some of the insights you gained from this experience on your travels? What insights can you share?
One of the most profound insights that I feel like I've experienced on my journeys is that true wealth is not in our wallets, but it is in our hearts. That doesn't mean that money isn't important, because it is important. But I have met many penniless millionaires on my journey. And whilst I was working as a broker, I met many millionaires who were penniless. And it's really such a powerful thing to connect with someone from your heart. And I think that was throughout all my journeys, because I've done quite a few. Yeah. That is the most profound thing that I've learned on my adventures.
Beautiful. So you have a huge passion for adventure and to give to those in need. But this also included driving a car from London to Mongolia to raise money to buy books for underprivileged children in America, as well as driving a London cab in America to give lifts to those who need it. So when you embark on all these adventures, obviously, like you've mentioned, you meet different people and I guess you also transform their life in some way and give them some sort of hope. I mean, how does that make you feel in terms when you see, that you've touched someone's life?
It is one of the most, I'm going to use the word profound again, because it truly is profound. It's one of the most profound experiences that you can have. And many people have changed my life, and I learnt from them. And I wanted to go out in any small way that I could and try and share my passion with them. And if they can, learn something and be inspired, and maybe instead of turning left, turn right, instead of living a life that's half lived, let's say, they go and live fully. If I can do that, then truly what more do you want? I mean, I feel very fortunate when and if I can touch someone's life in a positive way.
Brilliant. So what keeps you going on these adventures? I mean, obviously there must be times or is there times when you feel like sort of giving up and going for the comfortable way of life? And if so, sort of how have you dealt with that? Because obviously that you've had the security of the 9 to 5, and obviously you've moved on, you've had your adventures where you've touched people's lives. But during that process, there's also those times when you're on your own and you're reflecting. I mean, how have you dealt with any sort of negativity that's come your way, and how have you kept going throughout that?
Look, there have definitely been moments when I've wanted to give up, not just on an individual adventure, but just generally. I moved to Hollywood, and Hollywood's not an easy city, as many cities aren't. And I got very lucky with my first show, and then I didn't get another show for quite some time. And again, going back to the great man himself, Winston Churchill, one of his great quotes is "Never, ever, ever give up." And that's something that I live by. I just never give up. Yeah, sometimes I will have a bad day, and I won't want to continue. But ultimately, I will never give up. And I think that too many of us do give up, and we give up on our dreams, and we give up on the deliciousness of life, and we decide to live a mediocre life. I say no. Why?
Yeah.
Why? Let's just go for it in as many ways as we can. And let's find our passion, which isn't easy, but once we find it, let's live our passion. And then most importantly, once we're living our passion, it's sharing our passion.
Yeah.
Because that is such a powerful way for other people to see, oh, if he's doing it, I can do it. And let me tell you something, if I can do it, anyone can do it. And that's, again, what I was inspired by, reading books, watching movies. I'm like, well, hold on. If they can do it, then why can't I do it?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's...
Yeah. And I think that's probably one of the reasons I love doing the show that I do, because I can get people who have gone for it and are living their passion to help people. So even just by doing interviews as well, you're still spreading the message to inspire people, and you're at this moment in time inspiring my listeners. So exactly. So you mentioned in your website, anything you dream is possible, and you are definitely an example of that, and even with what you've just said. So can you elaborate on that a bit more for our listeners?
Sure. I mean, let's look at it this way. Neil Armstrong walked on the moon in 1969. For thousands and thousands and thousands of years, people have been looking up at that moon. And Neil Armstrong did it. Now, of course, Neil Armstrong didn't do it by himself. He had lots of people helping him. But many people would have thought, oh, it's impossible. You know, you can't walk on the moon. It's not possible. If Neil Armstrong can walk on the moon, then if you want to open up a bakery, then you can open up a bakery. Don't get me wrong, it's not so simple, oh, let's just open up a bakery. There are issues that you have to deal with. But if Neil Armstrong can walk on the moon, you can live your dream.
Brilliant. So obviously, I mean, you've been involved with the Kindness Challenge, which you set up. What was the aim of this challenge, and how successful has it been? What's been the feedback from it?
Well, the aim was simply to inspire people to be kind. And I know that may sound like a cliche, but you know, I've done a lot of stuff that has maybe been on a grand scale, but that doesn't mean that kindness isn't an everyday thing. You can go to Starbucks and just literally just smile at your barista. Yeah. You can go to when you're at the airport and you're being we have all these lines and we're being screened. Just have a chat with the person who's under a lot of pressure screening you.
Yeah.
You can take a giant leap, or you can take small steps. And it was really a way to inspire people simply to connect with each other and to do a good deed, because really kindness to me is a subsection of human connection. And human connection to me is the most powerful energy that we have on this planet. And more often than not, we feel disconnected. Mm-hmm. And I know what it's like to feel disconnected, and I know what it's like to feel connected. And I would much rather be connected than disconnected.
Brilliant. So obviously, when you set this up, what has been the response to it? Have people actually fed back to you and said, I tried this happened? What has been the response to it in terms of the kindness? Do you find that a lot of people said they're on board, we're going to go out there and, share the kindness and send out the message?
Yeah, I think the response has been very, very positive. And I think more often than not, we're bombarded with negativity with the media. Mm. I sometimes share in my speeches, I say, if I were to watch CNN or Sky News for 2 weeks straight, I would never leave my house. I'd be too scared to go out because of all the terrible things that happen. And don't get me wrong, bad things do happen, but good things happen as well. And it's more often than not, if we look at the world from a positive standpoint, we meet good people, we meet kind people, and I think it's important to remember that. I really think so, and that was one of the reasons why I did the Kindness Challenge. It was to kind of just nudge people in the direction of, look, it's not all bad. It's not all bad.
Yeah, and also I guess when you're giving out kindness, you're coming from a positive place, and you're coming from a feel-good factor, which obviously resonates, like attracts like. So you're almost getting out there and getting the good and focusing on it, which I'm a great believer of. What you focus on is what you're going to create more of. So definitely. Now you have a book, don't you, called The Kindness Diaries, which came out in December 2014. So can you share with the listeners what this book is about? Is it about what's happened in terms of the Kindness Challenge?
No, basically the Kindness Diaries is basically I purchased a vintage yellow motorbike with a sidecar, and I circumnavigated the world from Los Angeles all the way back to Los Angeles, because that's where I live now, and all relying on the kindness of strangers. So I had no food, no money, no gas, no place to stay, nothing. But with a twist, unsuspecting Good Samaritans received a life-changing gift. Now I couldn't help everyone, but I helped as many people as I could.
Okay. So are you able to share a particular story, or is that all saved for those that read the book?
Absolutely, I can share a story. The most powerful story for me was when I was in Pittsburgh. I had arrived there. I was trying to find a place to stay, and no one would help, which is perfectly understandable because, I had no expectations. Why would you help me? And then they didn't help, and that's okay. And I was walking through a park, and I stopped this chap, and I said to him, I told him what I was doing. I'm traveling around the world, relying on kindness, blah, blah, blah. Is there any way I can stay with you tonight? And he looked at me and he said, well, I'm really sorry, but I'm homeless. So in that moment, I felt a lot of shame. I was like, wow, here I am doing this social experiment. Of course, at home, I have a home. And I've just asked a homeless man who doesn't have a home if I can stay in his home. And I felt the shame. But it turned into one of the most beautiful moments of my life, because I ended up sleeping on the streets next to him in Pittsburgh. He protected me. Certain things happened in the night that he dealt with. He fed me some of the food he had. He gave me some of his clothes. And he was actually the man who taught me the profound message that true wealth is not in our wallets, it's in our hearts. And the next morning, I felt compelled to give back to this chap. Again, he had no idea. He had no idea that this was going to come, and it was pure kindness on his behalf. So I was fortunate enough to be able to put him up in a flat and to send him back to school. He wanted to become a chef. So he's now studying to become a chef, sending out applications for jobs. We've stayed friends, all because of an act of kindness that he gave to me.
Yeah. And I guess also it's being open to other people. I mean, it could have been very easily for him to kind of just dismiss you, but he didn't. He kind of welcomed you into almost his world and saying, look, he became your teacher almost to a point.
Without a shadow of a doubt. Tony, his name was Tony, sometimes says, Leon, you changed my life. And I turn around and I look at him and I say, Tony, you changed my life.
Yeah, definitely. Wow, that's beautiful. So what's next for Leon? What other exciting adventures and projects have you got lined up?
This last journey took a lot out of me. I just finished a book tour for the Kindness Diaries. I just returned to LA. I've been back for a few weeks. So I'm kind of in a holding pattern. But it's actually Random Acts of Kindness Day on February the 17th.
Okay.
So I'm going to be doing something on that day, which is top secret, but it'll come out on the day. Brilliant.
So when you get inspired to go on an adventure, and I mean, is it something that just happens, like you could be doing something and then you'll think, okay, I actually want to do this? Or do you actually, do you plan ahead a lot? I mean, obviously there is there is a bit of planning that needs to be done, or do you just kind of go with what's inspired you throughout the course of everyday life and then say, okay, I'm going to try this, I'm going to do this? How do you?
I think it's a bit of both, really. I do have to do some planning, obviously. But if something really inspires me, and I become fully committed to it, then I just do everything in my power to make it happen.
Okay, so what's your last piece of advice you would give to someone who wasn't living to their true selves and who was possibly afraid to let that inner rebel come out? I mean, I know we've touched on it, but just a last piece of advice that you'd share with the listeners just to inspire them and move them forward.
I would say, imagine yourself at 95 years old, looking back at your life and seeing a life half lived. Is that what you want? Because that's what I used to do. I think to myself, I'm 95 years old, I look back at my life and I'm like, what was all that about? Think how fantastic it would be to look back over those 95 years and think, I lived.
Yeah, brilliant. No regrets.
Yeah.
Okay. So, finally, where can our listeners go to find out more about Leon and your future adventures and to hear this top secret that you're going to actually unveil to us?
Well, they can go to my site, which is a bit of a challenging one, but I'll try and get it right. It's Leon, Leon, then LOGOTHETIS.com, so leonlogothetis.com. And you can also follow me on Twitter, which is at Leon Logothetis, and Facebook, which is the same, Leon Logothetis.
Brilliant. And
I think I should change my name to something simpler, like Joe Smith.
No, you want people to actually just go out there and actually learn a bit of, is it Greek? Are you?
Yes,
yeah?
I'm originally Greek, both parents Greek.
Yeah, it's good for us to be challenged with names, so don't go changing it. Well, Leon, I just want to say a huge thank you for coming on the show today and for sharing your inspiring journey with us all. I'm sure you've left many of us with something to think about and definitely take action on. So thanks again for coming on the show and sharing your journey.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's always an honour to be asked to be on a show.
You're welcome. Well, folks, that's it for today's show. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. And please, if you have been inspired and have any comments on the show, please do share them with me by emailing me on info@coachrita.co.uk, and that's info@coachrita.co.uk. So until next time, and as Leon says, let that inner rebel come out and play. Take care, and I'll see you soon. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in. We'll be back next week with another great show of your missing link to the law of attraction. For more information, go to coachrita.co.uk. That's coachrita.co.uk.